Story 1: The House of Shadows. At the tender age of 17, I was a pizza delivery boy, navigating the suburban sprawl in my trusty, beat-up Toyota Corolla. The job was a rite of passage, Stuart passage for a teenager, offering freedom and pocket money. By the time I was a seasoned veteran of countless deliveries, the late-night shifts on weekends were my domain, stretching past midnight. One chilly Friday night, as the clock ticked past 11 p.m., my boss, whom I'll call Mario, handed me an order for a single pizza destined for a woman named Karen. The address was unusually far, 15 minutes away, a trek that promised a decent tip. With my playlist blaring, I cruised through the quiet streets, the houses growing smaller and shabbier as I entered a lower-income neighborhood. The destination was a modest, single-story home, its windows glowing faintly with a single light. As I approached the front door, pizza box in hand, a voice called out from the neighboring house. "Excuse me, that pizza's for us. We gave the wrong address." I redirected to the adjacent house, a similar rundown structure with a broken doorbell. Knocking loudly on the storm door, I waited. Silence. Another knock, and a faint, "1 second," came from within, but the door remained closed for what felt like an eternity. Finally, it creaked open, revealing a woman in her mid-40s, her eyes gleaming with an unsettling intensity. She gave me a slow, head-to-toe appraisal, her smile too wide. "Charles, come see how handsome this delivery boy is," she called out, her voice carrying a flirtatious lilt. Another woman, roughly the same age, joined her, mirroring the first predatory gaze. My cheeks burned. I was shy, especially around older women. "What time do you get off work?" the first woman, presumably Karen, asked, leaning closer. My nerves jangled. "This is probably my last delivery," I stammered. The second woman, whom I'll call Chelsea, chimed in. "Why don't you come in for some wine?" The invitation was surreal. Like a scene from a movie I wasn't sure I wanted to star in. My friends would never let me live it down if I passed this up. "Sure," I said, my voice barely steady. They asked my age. 21, I lied, hoping to avoid trouble. They laughed, unbothered. "We don't care if you're underage," Chelsea said with a wink, guiding me to a sagging couch. Seated between them, I felt like prey. They were clearly intoxicated, their laughter too loud, their compliments about my dimples, my shyness, too forward. I sipped the wine they offered, grimacing at its bitter taste, pretending to enjoy it. The room was dimly lit, cluttered with empty bottles and ashtrays. Then Chelsea leaned in, her breath heavy with alcohol. "We've got something to show you in the basement." Curiosity warred with caution. "What is it?" I asked, forcing a laugh. "It's a secret," Karen replied, her eyes glinting. "You'll love it." They insisted I go first, their giggles echoing behind me. I approached the basement door, peering into the inky darkness below. My imagination ran wild with possibilities, some thrilling, others terrifying. But as I hesitated, I glanced back. Their laughter had stopped, their faces were blank, almost menacing, until they noticed my gaze and forced smiles. A chill ran through me. "What's down there?" I demanded, my voice firmer. "It's a surprise," they said in unison, their tone oddly mechanical. I took a cautious step onto the creaking stairs, asking, "Where's the light switch?" Chelsea's voice was sharp. "Leave the lights off." My heart pounded. In the darkness, I swore I saw movement, a shadow, perhaps an arm, shifting below. Panic surged. I turned to find the women creeping toward the door, their movements stealthy, predatory. Instinct took over. I bolted from the stairs, slamming the basement door shut. "I need the money for the pizza," I said, edging toward the front door. That's when I saw him, a towering figure in the kitchen doorway, his silhouette massive against the dim light. "Let's just make this easy," he growled, his voice low and menacing. I didn't wait to hear more. "The pizza's free," I shouted, yanking the door open and sprinting to my car. As I fumbled with the keys, I heard the front door burst open behind me. Locking the car doors, I glanced up to see the man at my passenger window, his eyes cold as he tried the handle, then pounded the glass. I threw the car into drive and floored it, tires screeching, not daring to look back. Back at the pizzeria, I recounted the ordeal to Mario and the crew, my hands still shaking. They were stunned. I called the non-emergency police line, reporting the incident in case others were targeted. The memory of that night haunts me. The women's eerie smiles, the man's chilling words, and the shadowy movement in the basement. Whatever trap awaited me, I'm grateful I escaped it. Story 2. The Foreclosed House. 2 years later, at 19, I was still slinging pizzas to cover gas and groceries. The job was monotonous but reliable. Take orders, box food, deliver, repeat. Most deliveries were uneventful, yielding tips of $3 to $5, occasionally 10 from generous customers. One evening, I got an order for a chicken parm hero and a regular slice, a small haul unlikely to tip well. The address was on a dead-end street, a detail that set my nerves on edge. The block had a rural, almost desolate vibe, with sprawling properties and a mix of farmhouses and one RV parked on overgrown grass. My destination was a peculiar, small house with a massive, unkempt lot, bordered by what looked like an abandoned property, its windows boarded, its lawn a jungle. It was around 6 p.m., the sky darkening, yet the house was pitch black, its front door slightly ajar, a red flag. As I approached, I heard it, a piano playing a haunting, repetitive melody, muffled as if from a distant room. I knocked, then rang the bell, only to find it broken. No response. The music continued, its eerie notes crawling under my skin. Unwilling to barge in, I circled to the backyard, a chaotic mess of scattered debris, including a rusted chain-link fence lying in the grass. The back door's glass revealed a cluttered storm room, but no one answered my loud knocks. Frustrated, I called the pizzeria to confirm the address. My coworker verified it was correct. Steeling myself, I pushed the front door open, the piano's creepy tune growing louder. "Pizza's here!" I shouted. The music stopped. A voice called, "Over here!" Then the piano resumed, looping that same unsettling song. The house was dark, the air thick with a musty, sour odor. I moved toward the music, my flashlight app casting weak beams across the foyer. Unease gnawed at me. Halfway in, I froze, unwilling to venture deeper. "I'm by the front door, sir," I yelled. The music cut off abruptly, leaving a suffocating silence. I edged back toward the exit, expecting footsteps. None came. "Sir?" I called again. A voice, frail and distant, replied, "Yes, sorry, I have trouble walking. Could you bring it in here, please?" He directed me through the living room to the dining room. No delivery instructions had mentioned this, which felt off. I hesitated, torn between duty and dread. What if this was just an elderly man in a neglected home? Cautiously, I crept toward the living room, reaching an archway to what I assumed was the dining room. My paranoia kicked in. Instead of entering, I peeked around the wall, just one eye scanning the room. There was the piano, its keys still, but no player. The room was empty, no old man, no one at all. Adrenaline surged. I backtracked swiftly, quietly shutting the front door behind me. I sped back to the pizzeria, explaining the creepy vibe to my boss. He was sympathetic, especially since the customer never called to complain. Later that night, curiosity drove me to research the address. My blood ran cold. The house had been foreclosed months ago and was supposed to be vacant. I'd been lured into a trap, likely a robbery or worse. Sharing this with my co-workers, we were all floored. I'd been steps away from disaster, saved only by my instincts. Story 3, the gunpoint robbery. My final week at an Italian restaurant pizzeria hybrid was marred by a delivery that scarred me for life. The job was versatile, manning the register, bussing tables, or delivering pizzas. Deliveries were my favorite, thanks to the tips. But on a late-night shift, a massive order for 3 specialty pizzas, worth about $70, came in for a rough part of town. My beat-up Civic was inconspicuous, or so I hoped, as I embarked on the 15-minute drive. The house was in a gritty neighborhood, the kind where you lock your doors twice. I approached the front door, pizza boxes stacked, and rang the bell. The door swung open instantly, revealing a Latino man, mid-30s, his eyes hard. He cracked the door wider, and I froze. A pistol gleamed in his hand, possibly a Colt .45, though my mind was too frazzled to be sure. My heart plummeted, panic choking me. Before I could react, 2 more men appeared, grabbing my arms while the gunman kept his weapon trained on me. They shouted in Spanish, their voices chaotic. The gunman barked in broken English. "Give me all your stuff." I nodded, barely able to breathe. "Okay," I gasped, handing over my wallet. "Phone," he demanded. I surrendered my prized Motorola Razr, the era's equivalent of an iPhone. One of them yanked my cheap watch off my wrist, the clasp scraping my skin. The gunman rifled through my wallet, pulling out my ID. He read my address aloud, his tone venomous. "You tell anyone we come to your house. Kill your family." Terror gripped me. "Okay, I understand," I whispered, fighting the urge to scream. They shoved me out, sending me sprawling down the stoop. My hands and knees hit the concrete, blood seeping through my torn shorts. The door slammed shut. Clutching only my keys, I stumbled to my car and drove home, too shaken to return to work. My parents noticed my silence, the blood on my knees, the tremor in my hands. They pried the truth from me. I'd been robbed at gunpoint, my ID taken, my family threatened. My dad, with police connections, acted fast. He called a trusted friend in the department who ran a background check on the house's resident, a man named Rodrigo with 4 prior felonies. Ignoring the threat, my dad coordinated with the police. A squad surrounded the house, entering with guns drawn. 2 of the 3 men were arrested. Rodrigo, with his rap sheet, got life. His accomplice, with 1 prior conviction, drew 5 years. The 3rd man vanished, never caught. To this day, I jump at noises outside. Footsteps, a creaking gate, haunted by the fear he's still out there. Though years have passed and he's likely fled, the trauma lingers, a shadow in the back of my mind.